Living Adaptive.
The goal is to adapt and thrive despite the adversity you face.
You're going to have that little voice inside of you trying to push yourself.
I set a vision for myself, and now I'm seeing it come to fruition.
I'm grateful for losing my leg.
There's just some things you must endure in life.
You might crash.
You can find a purpose in your suffering.
I'm not going to stop.
You do everything you possibly can.
We want to change the world.
I'm going to adapt to it and make it the way it works for me.
Take what it is from life that you want and enjoy it.
What's up, everybody? This is Scott Davidson, and this is Living Adaptive. We have an amazing show for you today. We're going to talk about some uplifting things. We're going to close out 2020, and we've got this beautiful pretty boy model over here with his hair all done up, and he looks amazing. And I saw him all over social media putting on Ugg boots and shit like that. He's just all over the place now. He's my close friend. His name is Jacob Pacheco. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, man, for having me. Always an honor and pleasure to be a part of your podcast, man. Love the content. Always. Will always be here.
Thank you. Let's jump right into this, man. We got to catch up with you before we get on to our subjects, man. You've been out there and you've been behaving yourself, social distancing and so forth, wearing a mask, getting COVID tests after travels, but you've been out there competing still. And you've also been doing some stuff with 30 waves, which we're going to jump into and ask you about that in a second. But man, you've been out there on a big waves. How scary was that?
I was. It was a code brown situation. So there was an opportunity presented to us for the first weekend of December in Santa Cruz to surf Steamer Lane, an iconic break up in Northern California. And it was really intense. The waves were the size of houses. They were no joke. Once you got out there, it was one thing to see it from the cliff where the vantage point was. It was another thing to actually see it down in person, eye level. It's where you were basically forced to answer questions about yourself. And that's what I really took away from that experience was the conversation between myself and nature. And it really was about proving something to myself, not to anybody else, but to myself. And I'm not going to lie to you and say that I was like, oh yeah, I was fine out there. Like I was scared, but I was enjoying it while I was scared. It was a weird kind of Zen moment, you know? And there was a couple of moments where I had to be rescued, like legitimately trained lifeguards had to come ripping in on jet skis to come and save me from getting smashed upon the cliff on the rocks. It was really intense, but man, to be able to share the water with those legends and just experience that moment, there's nothing like it for me.
So you had your little Baywatch situation where you got saved out there for a little bit because you had to ride them big boy waves. They were pretty nasty waves. I saw some footage of it. It was a really unique competition. What are you doing out there in terms of the 30 waves? What's this all about?
So the 30 waves in 90 days challenge was really something that I wanted to do for the last couple of years. So I originally tried it in 2017. I fell flat on my face, bit off way more than I could chew. And I stopped at beach 17 on day 90 in 2017. So I learned a lot about the whole kind of process. Tried it again this year because, well, we're in COVID. There wasn't really much to do except, be active and get yourself out and about. And, social distancing is a real thing. So I tried to do my best to social distance. But I also wanted to involve a few friends. I never kept the gatherings more than 2 or 3 people. And I just started surfing. But really the challenge was about taking on something that you believe is bigger than yourself, also trying to get after it. But additionally, what I took away from this journey was another question, which occurred during the filming of this project. I experienced a little bit of discrimination in a store where I was receiving a potential sponsorship. There was an adult there that actually called us effing weirdos in the store for just being ourselves and doing what we wanted to do. I didn't even hear him. I didn't even care because I was like, do you see where we're at right now? We're getting sponsored. I don't give a damn what that person says. They're not getting free shit. I'm getting free shit. They're just jealous. But the more I thought about it afterwards, the more I realized that life needs to be a bit more accessible to us. And that's when I really had this question pop in my head of like, is life accessible? And I'm not talking about just from getting from point A to point B. Okay, that's one way of accessibility, but what about socioeconomic status, educational status, things of that nature? So I threw it out there, and that's where this documentary is kind of going. It's like answering this question of is life accessible? I threw it out to my people on social media, my community, and the feedback was immense. Everybody had their own take on it, and all of a sudden we had this conversation between people with and without disabilities, people from all sorts of different backgrounds, answering the question. It's like, yes, we have conversation. And it's like, it was like fuel to my fire. So I'm doing what I want to be doing right now with it. And there's no simple answer, but I will tell you that I think access is a universal concept that everybody needs to embrace. It affects us all at one point or another in our lives.
Yeah, it's a beautiful notion of like discussing accessibility and things like that. It's been a good year for you, man. You have a big year. You're closing it out really strong. So I'm excited to see what's up ahead. It's pretty exciting. This is a big project. So look out 2021. Jacob's here.
I do what I can, man. But you have also had an excellent year, and you're going to tell the people about it right now because I'm going to call you out. Somebody achieved a lifelong dream, didn't they?
Yeah, I feel really lucky. I feel like I've been published in a lot of areas and I'm grateful for those publications, but in this case there was something so meaningful about working with Osprey and making their stories and then working with them on this project and on the side of disability, talking about how important it is to recognize my disability in that story there and also be part of the outdoor industry. And it was a really amazing experience. I can remember being a kid, like in a middle school library, flipping through like outdoor magazines, mostly skiing magazines, stuff like that I could look at the mountains. This is during an era where like there wasn't a ton of outdoor magazines to have. And I would just imagine being out there and I'd see those athletes out there doing things. And I thought, I would never get sponsored in some way or not even sponsored, be featured anywhere, anything like that. And to be featured in their stories meant so much because, I've been in, press releases here and there and things like that over time. But this one hit home. I wanted to call my childhood friend and be like, man, I made it. I made it in a way that I really needed, which doesn't mean much to many people, but to me, it was so meaningful, especially a story of dealing with bullying over the way I appear, the way my legs appear, and making something out of it. And it was really important to me. So I feel like I'm really lucky. I feel really, really blessed this year.
Did you blast Drake in the background? Started at the bottom, now yeah. Started at the bottom,
I
now the whole
did.
team here.
I blast that every time I get ready for like a competition or something. Like when I'm ready to do something nuts, we're gonna blast a little bit of that and get fired up for it, man. You bring so much energy. There's a reason why I bring you on, especially for this episode, because this is what you do, man. This is your world. You're a content creator. You speak about this, but you don't just like it's not just a story, it's real. Like I know things about you that others don't know. I mean, we should share with the audience that you've gone through so much adversity and that includes like as a kid. We're going into holidays and so many people are lonely, but you've seen that. You've been there and I'm hoping that you could share some of the things that you did to get through those periods cuz Jacob, you were in a hospital alone as a kid, man. You were there alone. Can you talk about that and what worked for you?
Yeah, no problem, man. So I was in the hospital as a child. I had a surgery done when I was about 8 or 9 years old, where I spent the holidays in a hospital bed with doctors and nurses. And there were a lot of really, really lonely nights. Not, your parents can't be there for you every minute of every day. I know that they would like to, but the reality is life doesn't work like that. We all have those moments where we're sitting alone by ourselves with our own thoughts. And as a child, those can be really difficult to manage. Even for an adult, they're super difficult to manage. Our minds are a very powerful tool, but they can also be our greatest enemies as well. I tend to think that it's always our greatest ally. The moment you can use your experiences to work for you, not against you, that's where your real power comes into play. And I wanted to touch on something that you talked about with your Osprey article, where there's a kind of an understory of validation, but we're not talking about external validation. We're talking about internal validation, where we start to validate ourselves. We start to validate our actions, our meanings, our purposes. That becomes really powerful. And you did it with your Osprey article. I mean, wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, I think this is one thing that you do really well is hit on the idea of like starting to be kind to yourself. You're like the expert in my world of like when sometimes I've reached out to you, I'm like beating up myself, and you're like, man, let's take a step back. And that's what you do, man.
Yeah, it's not easy. Like, I'm not saying that it's easy. We all have our skeletons, our demons that we all deal with. Those don't necessarily go away.
Mm-mm.
Those wounds, they don't go away. However, you can heal them. That's different, because healing allows you to move on, move past it. I'm not saying that it goes away. Those scars, they heal, but the scars remain as reminders of where you've been. That's what I was talking about with experiences. You start to have these experiences that you can fall back on and use them to be like, okay, I was there and I'm here now. So, for example, I was completely immobile in a hospital bed at 8 years old, casts all the way up to my hips. I couldn't really move. It was really, really difficult. And I remember those nights of where I was clicking the morphine button just to make the pain stop, because my feet would throb in the cast. Okay. I can remember those moments and feast on those and be miserable, or or I can remember those moments of those awesome nurses that would come in the middle of the night to make sure that I was doing okay, or the other kids from the other rooms that would literally wheel into my room because they knew that I would always ask for the mobile video game unit, and they would hang out with me. And the nurses would do the same things. I remember the better moments rather than the tough moments. I remember the nurses. I remember the patients like myself, that we all would just kind of give our time to each other, and that would really lift us up. So when my mom wasn't around, when my family wasn't around, that would be really important to me. And as we move into this year in a more modern sense, we've had to spend more time with ourselves, within ourselves, than ever before. And so we tend to nitpick. It's like picking at a scab. You pick at a scab enough, you're going to reopen it. Like, we can't do that. You can't do that. You got to let it heal. And this causes you to look at the things that you may not like about yourself. And that's okay, because we're not supposed to be perfect. Who says we're supposed to be perfect? I don't get that. That, like, we need that validation to be this perfect person. It's toxic. You're not going to get anywhere with it. Like, I posted a video recently on my social media where the first 30 seconds of the content is literally me falling, cutting myself, bleeding, and hurting, lots of pain, quote unquote. To me, that's like, that's getting it. That's getting after it. That's like, you earn the stripes. To me, that's beautiful in and of itself. That represents the journey.
Yeah, the journey is a beautiful thing. If you let it be a journey, that is a beautiful thing. And it sounds stupid to say it that way, but it kind of is. But that's the reality. Is if you give it a chance to be beautiful, even during the trials, like adversity offers a lot of things. Adversity offers you a chance to understand pain, and like it goes back to that whole idea, the problem of pain and understanding it. For me, like I was thinking of takeaways for this year. Like, what do I see work? Like works for others. What do I see works for others? And the first thing I would say is that, like, the individuals that have gone through significant things that I've interviewed, and oh my God, not just this show, everywhere. I've interviewed so many individuals that have gone through the most significant adversities that people can imagine. And there's this common trait I see. And no, I'm not going to sell it in a book. I'm about to give it to you all right now. What makes these people successful? What is it? And again, I don't even take sponsors on this podcast. I'm going to boil down everything I hear in these interviews, formal, informal, direct messages, everything. And what I find is that they're going after it, man. They're finding a goal, whether they know the big goal or the small goal. They're picking that goal. They're picking that goal that they know at that point, and they're going after it. And no matter how bad they feel, each day when they get up, they go after that goal, whatever it may be. If they want to be a musician, a content creator, an athlete, or something like that, or they want to be a beautiful, pretty model like yourself, you like whatever it is they want to be, whatever they want to be, they're going after it each time. And so they duck their head, and when the darts start flying, they just keep moving forward. And you've spoken to me about this a lot because we've discussed this thing, is that you say, hey, Scott, but you can have bad days, and you can reel things back and get reset. And that's totally the case too. When you talk to these people that have been so successful, that have reached, Hollywood platforms, if you call it whatever your term of success is, or reached that podium and got first, second, or third place, whatever it is, though, that common trait is that they find a way, no matter how bad they feel, to keep moving forward. And it sounds simple, but even in my own life, I felt those dark periods where I'm like, I can't do this. I feel horrible. I'm going to stop. I don't know how. I just don't want to be here. Even that article in Osprey, I said, maybe I wanted to go eternally black at this point because I couldn't take any more of what I was receiving. I couldn't take it. But somewhere, some way, somehow, I ducked ahead and I just kept moving towards that goal. So if there's anything that I can say, when anybody out there that's trying to figure their shit out, that's hurting right now, go find that goal, no matter how big, how small, whatever it is, and just start working towards it. Because at least you're working towards something that's making a positive impact in your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I really do. I have three things I can give to the people. To the people! Three things. Here we go. Number one, stay hydrated. Number two, eat the right things. Number three, ask the right questions. Stay hydrated, number one. Eat the right foods, number two. Number three, ask the right questions for yourself. Those three things will help set you on a path to kind of get you moving in the right direction.
Let's do that right now. Let's have you ask the right questions. Go.
Yeah, I mean, these are simple questions like, what do you want the most? And then additionally, you have to accept the answers. That's really, really, really important. You need to accept your answers. And if they change, that's okay too, because it's called life. Life transitions over and over and over again. Scott, you've transitioned multiple times. You went from being
Oh, yeah.
a hardworking person to becoming a father, right? That was a transition in and of itself.
Yeah, the transition is so difficult at times, but those transitions, those chapter changes often provoke the most anxiety. Uncertainty is something that a lot of individuals have a ton of difficulty dealing with. Me too. But there is a way to train yourself to live in that uncertainty. I think of this. In fact, we talked about this a little bit ago, but for those that are listening or watching right now, is that I was trying to summit this mountain last Tuesday. So, and I was up there and I got lost in a trail twice, and I was scurrying and scrambling and crawling, and rocks were slipping down a cliff because there was just so much loose stuff. And I'm scrambling and I'm like, I'm stuck. And instead of panicking in this uncertainty, I kind of thought okay, this is different. Don't press the nuclear option. And instead, I press record on my GoPro and said, let's see if we can get out of this. And if we can't, somebody's going to enjoy that video because they're going to pick that goddamn GoPro off my body. They're going to put it on TikTok and it's going to get 1,000 hearts or whatever it is. But the point being is there came a point in my life where I didn't fully panic in that uncertainty. And that's what a lot of people are facing right now, is a ton of uncertainty. Will they have a better life? What do I do after I lose my legs? What do I do if now that I'm in a chair? What do I do? What do I do? And getting that comfort in the uncertainty, welcoming that uncertainty is so important, especially in the adaptive world.
Uncertainty equals possibility in my mind.
It's beautiful.
it means that there's a lot of doors that are going to open for you. Maybe they're different doors than what you expected for your own life. And guess what? That's what we talked about earlier with validation and expectations. Those are dangerous things that can really derail your progress and moving forward. Now, there's a difference between having standards and having expectations. Standards like set the bar for you about what your performance, what you should be doing for yourself. Expectations are what you kind of believe, and that can really, really mess with it. Okay. So for me, I like to just try to be productive every day in one way, shape, or form. That may look like hammering out multiple interviews, content creation, and doing those types of things. And in another day, it's watching The Witcher on Netflix and having a discussion about life in anime. That's healthy. To me, that's healthy. So I believe in possibility, not uncertainty. Uncertainty to me it has a little bit of health to it.
I love that idea of uncertainty. As soon as you said uncertainty equals possibility, I thought of this. I grew up thinking like, oh my God, what if I can't walk? What if I'm not in a wheelchair? Or what if I am in a wheelchair? What if I'm like, what's going to happen? What will anybody love me? Well, this, or this. Instead, nowadays when I think that, I think, well, cool. If I go to a wheelchair, look out wheelchair competition because I'm planning to kick your ass. Like there's a lot of possibilities. We're coming for it. And like, that's the type of thing is like, if I'm in a wheelchair, well, cool. What can we do with it? And instead of worrying so much about, this could happen, figure out how you can maximize what happens, if it does happen, or figure out how to maximize the present moment more than anything.
You can't do it on your own either. There's no way you can do it on your own either. It's foolish to believe that you can. I would consider myself a bit of a go-getter, and sometimes I can distance myself from people, but I understand that I am a people person at heart, and that community and people around me that love me, my network, my support network, will always be there for me. And I know that I need to reach out to them to help me push forward. That's one of the things that's really helped me in this time period, because I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, my life has been amazing this year. Like, yeah, it's been a good year, but there's also been a lot of ups and downs for me too. Like while I was experiencing the amazing moments in Santa Cruz, facing the hugest waves of my freaking life and charging it, I was also very sad, very lonely, and I was in my own head for those days. But I was able to get through it, and I still talked to my friends. They were calling me, I was calling them. We were having conversations. I was being supported. It's very, very important to reach out to the people that love you and who you love, because that's going to really help get you to the next step. It's okay to vent to them. And if they don't like you venting to them, find new friends.
That's beautiful. You said it, man. You said reach out. We have a community here. This adaptive community is beautiful. Whether you have an adaptation or not, you support, you're a caregiver, you run a nonprofit, you run a for-profit, whatever it is, there's resources out there. I know that COVID right now is really tough. People are shut in. They can't do much, but there's still virtual resources while we go through these motions and get through this. There's still us on social media. We can talk. If you need help, you can reach out. There are plenty of people that will help. There's so much going down right now, but like on the other end of it, like if nothing, like if COVID ends, like maybe COVID's not going to destroy us, and maybe the election's not going to destroy us, and maybe physical issues aren't going to destroy us completely, and maybe, just maybe, on the other side, it's going to be beautiful, and 2021 is going to be a beautiful year for you, and you're going to build whatever you want to build, and it's going to turn out great. So maybe that's the mindset to approach it for, but just know that resources are there. We do promote a lot of adaptive orgs and stuff like that you can reach out to and work with, but also within the community itself. We're here.
Yeah, you're listening to two of the most engaged content creators on social media platforms. We respond to all messages, all comments. They mean something to us because we put a lot of time and effort into the content that we create. We want to make it work for you. We care about you. and the people that we work with care about you. And that's really, really important. So beautifully said, Scott.
Yeah, the only thing I don't respond to is feet picture requests. Come on, guys, get your shit together, you old pervy dudes.
There is some weirdness out there, man. I didn't know existed, but apparently people like the limp, the gimp limp. You know what I'm saying?
They love the gimp limp. They love it, man. So like, yeah, but hey, man, to the audience, we love you all. We want you here. You're part of the world that we're in. We're all in it together, man. So let's have 2021 be a big year. We'll be rolling out new interviews. I got a new show coming out too. That's not adaptive related, but I will share it with everybody. And hopefully you enjoy it. And we're going to be building out content here on Living Adaptive for this show. We got some fun stuff in the works that will probably roll out around February. So look for that to happen. And of course, you're going to hear from our man, Jacob Pacheco, all the time because I'm always on with him. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, man. Thanks. I appreciate it. Got a lot of cool things in the works next year as well. Got some new merch rolling out soon. So that's really, really exciting times, man. I'm stoked. Everybody keep your heads up. Happy holidays. Love you.
Remember, go to livingadaptive.com to find previous episodes, show notes, contacts for guests like this guest, links to social media accounts, and a bunch of other good stuff. So go there. Peace.